So what happens after you take your medicine? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on medicine's unseen story, this huge global safety net that's working to protect you every single day long after you've left the pharmacy. Let's get into it.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You get sick, you see a doctor, you get a pill, you get better. Story's over. But what if I told you that moment is actually just the beginning of a much, much bigger story, a kind of global investigation?
I see, before any medicine ever gets to you, it goes through rigorous clinical trials. But here's the thing. Trials are like a perfect, sterile laboratory. You've got a few thousand carefully chosen patients under super strict controlled conditions. The real world? Oh, it's messy. It's millions of different people with all sorts of health conditions, taking other medicines, living completely different lives. A clinical trial, as good as it is, just can't possibly predict everything that's going to happen out here.
And that really brings us to a fundamental truth, something that's so important to remember. No medicine is ever 100% safe. The goal is always to make them as safe as possible, of course, but because no drug is completely without risk, the story can't just end when it hits the market. It needs to be watched, constantly.
So who are these watchers? This whole critical safety system? Well, it has a formal name, and it's really the unsung hero of our story today.
It's called Pharmacovigilance. Okay, that sounds a little complicated, I know, but really, it's just the science of keeping an eye on the effects of medicines after they've been launched. It's all about spotting, assessing, and trying to prevent any problems that didn't show up in the initial tests. It's a nonstop learning process.
The name itself actually makes a lot of sense when you break it down. It comes from the Greek word pharmakon, which means drug, and the Latin word vigilare, which means to keep watch. So literally, it means to keep watch on drugs. Simple as that, right?
And the whole point of this entire enterprise? The ultimate goal was crystal clear, making sure that every single medicine is used ethically, rationally, and, most importantly, safely. It's all about tilting the scales so the benefits always outweigh the risks for patients.
Okay, so how does this watching actually happen? Let's stick with our little metaphor and think of it as a global investigation. You've got clues and reports coming in from all over the world, and a dedicated team of experts trying to piece it all together. The process itself is actually pretty logical. It all starts when someone, you, me, a doctor, reports a possible side effect. Then, the experts, the data detectives, they sift through mountains of this information, looking for patterns. They call this a safety signal. If a signal looks legit, they dig in deep to figure out if the drug is really the culprit. And finally, if the link is confirmed, the authorities step in and take action to protect the public. And who are the informants in this investigation? Well, that's the cool part. It's pretty much everyone. The clues, these vital reports, they come from patients, doctors, pharmacists, even the drug companies themselves. We all have a part to play in this giant safety network.
Now, the quality of the investigation really depends on the quality of the clues. A good report, like the UK's yellow card, needs details. You can't just say, the pill made me feel funny. They need to know the exact drug, the dose, the batch number, when you started it, when the reaction happened. Every single piece of that information is a vital clue for the investigators.
Now, you might be thinking this whole thing is just about finding new side effects. And while that's a huge part of it, believe me, the actual scope is way broader.
Yeah, it's not just about those adverse drug reactions, or ADRs. These watchers are also on the lookout for things like harmful interactions between different drugs, problems with a specific batch, fake or counterfeit medicines, and even patterns of misuse or abuse. It's about creating a complete 360-degree safety profile of that medicine out in the wild.
And speaking of those side effects, they generally fall into two main camps. You've got type A reactions, which are the common, predictable ones. Think about getting an upset stomach from an antibiotic. We kind of expect that might happen. But then you have type B reactions. These are rare, unpredictable, and often come completely out of left field. And these are the ones that clinical trials often miss.
So all this watching, all this data crunching, all this investigating, what's the point? What does it all lead to? Well, it leads to a continuous, ongoing safety verdict.
And at the very heart of that verdict is one simple but incredibly profound question. Do the benefits of this medicine still outweigh its potential risks? For any drug to stay on the market, the answer has to be a resounding yes. Pharmacovigilance is the system that makes sure we keep asking that question as new information comes in.
And the outcomes of these investigations? They have real-world teeth. It could be something as simple as updating the medicine's label with a new warning,
Or it could be much more serious, like restricting a drug's use to only certain patients, or in very rare cases, pulling it off the market completely. It's all about protecting public health.
And why does all this matter so much? Just look at this number, £2.21 billion. That's the projected annual cost of hospital admissions just from adverse drug reactions to the National Health Service in England alone. It is a staggering figure that really drives home the very real human and economic costs when things go wrong.
So at the end of the day, pharmacovigilance isn't just some boring regulatory thing. It's this dynamic, living, global system of watchfulness that is quietly protecting millions of us every single day with every single pill we take.
So the next time you open that medicine bottle, maybe just take a second and remember that your story with that drug, well, it's part of a much bigger story. One that's constantly being written and updated by a global team of watchers, all working behind the scenes to keep you safe.